We chat with Danielle Robertson, founder of DR Care Solutions and a director of Family Business Australia. Joining her is our panel of experts discussing tips and tricks for running those family businesses.
You're watching Entrepreneurs. Welcome back to Entrepreneurs.
Welcome back to Entrepreneurs. We are joined by Danielle Robertson, founder of DR Care Solutions and a director of Family Business Australia. Sue Ismail is back, founder of Nad's Hair Removal. And David Kenny rejoins us to debate the ins and outs of keeping it in the family. Danielle, welcome to the panel.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you for having me here.
Not a problem at all. Thank you very much for being here. You've got an extraordinary background in the caring sector. Talk to us about what led to the creation of DR Care Solutions, your latest business.
Well, my mum started Dial an Angel in 1967, so
Wow.
that was our home care agency for helping people in the home and remain at home. It grew into the aged care and disability care sector. I grew up in the business. I was 6 weeks old when Mum started it. So I lived and breathed.
6 weeks.
I was 6 weeks, and I'm the third child.
You might have been the youngest entrepreneur in history.
Oh, I don't know about that, but I think it was in the blood. My dad also ran menswear stores, and that was a family business as well. So coming out of the family business in 2014, we sold that then. There was a real need for people to have an independent person to help them navigate the aged care system and the disability care system. I found a niche that, and my kids who are involved in the business and my partner said, you've got to do this because no one is finding it easy to navigate the system, and I find the best care solutions for people's loved ones.
Right.
Whether it be retirement living or aged care facilities or home care.
Now, you're also a director of Family Business Australia. Now, we've spoken a lot tonight about there's an abundance of family business in Australia. How does that compare globally?
Well, to the rest of the world, there's 70% of all companies in Australia are family businesses.
Yeah.
In America, what we find is that most people's children go away to study and they learn and they grow up and they finish their education and then they find jobs in the areas that they've been at university for. In Australia, that's different. People are more or stay at home and they go to university, but they're living at home in Australia. And I think that's where they're living and breathing family business at the dining room table. So I think that's the difference. And the same in Europe. A lot of family businesses are in Europe, but once again, some of the kids go overseas to learn and they don't come back.
And does that reduce the percentage in those regions?
I think it does. I think it does.
Right.
But, you know, I mean, Family Business Australia, we've got 2,000 members and that's growing rapidly. People don't know about it. It's the world's best secret in Australia.
Why is that?
I think family businesses are very private.
Yes.
They don't like to spout from the rooftops that we're a family business and we're doing great things. It is only when they become successful and the media gets hold of it that's when people go, oh, wow, they're a family business. And family businesses are trusted. Family businesses love doing business with family business, and they're trusted environment.
Yes. But what are some of the key trends and issues that you see, particularly coming through Family Business Australia at the moment?
Look, there's always, with this massive generation of wealth being handed over to the next generation, so the second generation or the next geners, we're seeing that there's a lot of concerns around succession planning, exit planning, that the older generation don't want to let go. The younger generation want to fly ahead with innovations and ways of how they feel that they can do the business. I just think that the way of the future is, you know, having support from an association that can help with exit planning, accredited advisors, peer-to-peer support, networking with other family businesses, and hearing that we're all on the same page. We've all got the same sort of issues. Might be different industries, but we've all got different issues or similar issues on that basis.
It's interesting you raise that dynamic, and David, I'd like your view on this. I would imagine a pretty common dynamic in family business is the older generation wants to bed things down and keep things, you know, bed down the foundations and de-risk it as much as possible. Whereas the up-and-coming generation will probably innovate and tech and bring it into the new era. Do you see that tension unfolding in a lot of family businesses?
Oh, very much so, Jack. I mean, I think the key thing is really looking at making sure that the whole family gets heard, because some of the reasons it's been successful have been old-fashioned values, but then wanting to expand overseas, and sometimes you can lose that thread of why it's been very successful. But equally well, we were talking before about Amazon and how things are coming at us, and needing to really look to bring in new business models and expand and drive down logistic costs and things like that. So it is a definite push-pull in terms of staying in the past and wanting to continuously innovate. So there's definitely a tension I see often.
The older generation don't really want to let go because they feel that they've brought this baby into the world, this business, and have built it, and it's concerning for them, because what happens if they do hand it over? What are they going to do? And I work with families around this as well, talking about what their purpose is, and that they can do other stuff. They don't have to always be involved in the family business.
I think the older generation have to realise that thinking that what we did yesterday is sufficient for tomorrow is really ignorance. Like I've been running this business for 28 years, but my daughters have their own ideas, so I've got to welcome those ideas, and I've got to be open to change with market change. Online is big. It isn't my world, but it is my daughter's world. So yes, we've got to go in with our
social media and influencers.
Absolutely.
The world has changed.
It's changing.
I'm interested to ask the whole panel of questions. So I might start with you. Quirkier characteristics we get in family businesses that you just wouldn't see anywhere else. I know this is probably very close to home for you.
I'm a grandmother now.
Congratulations.
And, I have been for a number of years. I'm a serial grandmother. But, as soon as my grandkids walk through that boardroom door, it's like, enough. That's it. My time's over. So I don't know if it can get any quirkier than that. My grandkids are more important to me at this point in my life.
Yes.
Only because I've handed the responsibilities to the right people in the organisation.
Yes. Danielle, quirky characteristics?
Well, I was breastfeeding at board meetings, so
wow.
My daughter was born and bred in that 2 weeks after I had her. She was with me in the office.
She's the youngest entrepreneur in history. She kept you by 4 weeks.
She did, something like that. So she's actually helping me in the business. She's a lawyer, but not lawyering, but she looks over all my contracts. And my son, he's in design, so he's involved in the business too. It's interesting to see how my mother and I used to talk about calling each other. I call her mum at home, but in the office I called her Dina. And people could not understand how I could decipher the difference between the home and workplace. And I never thought about it. It was just a natural occurrence. So that's not so quirky, but, I think there's lots of things that happen in family businesses. I think the agility and, having the ability to move very quickly is very different to the corporate world. So that's a really big plus for family businesses, so that if you see something coming from left field, you can, make sure that you adapt and change very quickly.
To finish, in broad strokes, David, a question for the entire panel, but to start with David, number one piece of advice for those considering going into a family business?
Assume it's going to fail and hope for the best and plan for the worst. So get the ground rules right in terms of making sure you know what's going to happen if there's a breakup. You want to be able to talk after all these sorts of things can happen. But also just set high standards and set rules about what's going to happen with, whose decisions, what areas people are going to have, responsibility over. Understanding, well, if there is someone has to exit, well, what are the ground rules? How do you objectively decide how this would be valued? How distributions will flow? Because it's really easy at the start if you have a chat with people about what is common sense. As soon as you're in an argument, it's another kettle of fish.
Yeah. So, number one piece of advice.
Yes, know what you want and work with that. Believe in yourself, have the courage to get started, even if it is in a small way. One thing will lead to another, and before you know it, you're a proud owner of a huge business. Have the discipline to continue, because there's bound to be struggles and obstacles in the way.
Beautifully said.
And have fun, because life is too short.
I love that. Danielle, number one piece of advice to finish on.
Have clarity around your values as a family and as a business. I think that's really, really important. Understand your purpose. Why are you in business? What is it for? Is it just to make money? Is it what's your purpose? And it's very hard for a family business to identify that. Often they go to the founder and actually say, why did you start this? and the family don't realise. So, you know, they're the things that, you know, stand out to me.
Interesting territory indeed. David Kenny, Sue Ismail and Danielle Robertson, thank you so much for joining us on Entrepreneurs.
Thank you.
That's all we have time for. Next week, we are at your service with Hospitality Entrepreneurs. You can watch us anytime on Foxtel Go and on the catch-up section of yourmoney.com.au. I'm Jack Delosa. Good night.